What's up, Zox fam? We're back with some more Godforge. Now, we have this week's Friday's exclusive leaks, and we have a very special character that we're going to be getting into, and that's going to be Beowulf. Now, I'm actually really excited for this character because there's so much to actually talk about with this character, actually. There's a lot to get into, right? Now, again, we got to shout out Fateless for this opportunity to be able to deep dive, but let's go ahead and get into it, all right? So, here we go. Let's start off with some basic things here. Who is Beowulf? So Beowulf is actually a character. He's actually a prince from a very old English epic. And this epic actually focuses on the Swedish kings, and eventually it ends up unfolding and it starts going into Beowulf's personal story, his entire journey and his adventures and all of the different things that he had to basically come up against. Now, the interesting thing is that the Beowulf that we're seeing being depicted here is a lot older. Now, I mentioned the fact that he was a prince starting out, which obviously he was much younger. But we're seeing a much older, much war-ridden, like just kind of like, I don't know, like just tougher looking Beowulf. Now, not to say he wasn't tough before, but this is definitely a Beowulf that has experienced battle scars. So I'm going to speculate that this isn't Prince Beowulf, this is King Beowulf. Now, there's a couple other reasons as to why I'm saying that, but I want to talk about the detailing real quick. Now, the detailing that they actually are using here, you can definitely tell that there's obviously, like I said, he's war-ridden. Like you can see the battle scars on the arms, on the face you have the claw slash. But again, there's a certain like level of like wisdom and just kind of like, I don't know, it's the aura that he's kind of giving off that is just like really, really cool. Now, as far as like the armor, I like the fact that they decided to go with like the studded leather padding, because this also is kind of telling to like place of origin, and also to like when you kind of start to learn and like you play these types of games, or just even learning about like that time period and why they might have used other materials over other materials, this is a really light, very easy material to move in, right? So again, this is like, considering what he has to fight, makes a lot of sense, right? Now, the other thing that I really like too, obviously, is on the gauntlets. I love when there's like the spikes on like the hands wrapped around, like right around almost the knuckles. So you kind of have like this idea, like instead of him having a shield, he actually uses his arms. It's like the gauntlet padding, to be able to block and like, you know, to be able to like maybe block, you know, swords or arrows incoming and stuff like that, right? So really, really cool, you know, like extra layer of details. Now, the other things that we see here is kind of more around the waist with the belt here, where we have some skulls, and then we also have the war axe here. Now, the interesting thing with the war axe, and I'm hoping that he actually like takes it off and like throws it. That would actually be kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie, but that is like some extra intricate stuff. But nonetheless, looks really, really good. Now, of course, going down to the boots here, very, very simple. You have like the leather wrapping around them. So it's just, again, just for that emphasis of like, I feel like this version and what's being depicted, and really honestly just who Beowulf is, he's moving, right? Like he's very agile, he's very good in combat, very good in battle. So I'm gonna assume we're gonna probably see some of that in the game, right? Now, of course, with that, the other thing that was really interesting to me, and this is why I wanted to kind of talk about, is detailing first before I specifically talked about this. Now, they actually gave us the opportunity to see some 3D rendering of what he's going to possibly look like in game. Now, again, guys, this is subject to change. We don't know if this is going to be what he's finalized to be, but he looks good, okay? Now, the cool thing is that if we go and we look at his back, what they decided to do was they gave him like the fur kind of like, you know, going down the back, almost like a cape, but then they have this giant skull on his back. Now, I know this is a dragon skull because this is a huge part of his lore. Now, when he becomes king of the Geats, which is now modern day Sweden, he actually had a dragon that was threatening his kingdom. So at that point, he had to, and I forgot what the guy's name is. It started with a W, I think. I can't remember if it was like Will Legs or Will Kegs or something like that, or Weak Kegs. I can't remember. But either way, they had to team up together. He went out, you know, teaming up with this guy, and they went and they basically slew this dragon. Now, the interesting thing about this, though, is that the same dragon that he slew, this dragon also wounded him and actually ended up killing him, right? So he was able to save his people, but it cost him his life, essentially. So it's really interesting to see that they're depicting this dragon on his back, because then they go to say here, could have a dragon skull on the back over the fur as a reference of the one he slayed, but also gave him death. Now, of course, with that too, we also have his sword, which is, I can't really pronounce this correctly. I think it's Nigling, I guess it is going to be. The one that he used to slay the dragon, since this one was broken by his own strength, could have been reforged by the gods. Now, I think that that's something that we're kind of getting a little bit more into the lore of Godforge itself, is that in this universe of Godforge, they're able to bring back people, right? Because again, he was dead. So this kind of goes into Medusa, and it's kind of giving us some context as to how these like characters are even possibly able to come back, because he died as you know, as a valiant king, you know, like he died very heroic. And like I said, he saved all his people. But it's really interesting to see that he's able to come back. He comes back with, you know, the dragon skull, but then also his sword is reforged, and you can kind of see the detailing here on the sword where the cracks are, and it's not just like your gorilla glue like back together, but you actually see how there's like this golden kind of light emitting from it, which shows that there's a much higher or stronger power that sealed this back together. It wasn't just, you know, glued back together, but it was actually sealed by some sort of power, which is allowing him to make the sword usable again, right? Because if it broke, you would think it would be weaker if it was just sealed with anything. So it has to be sealed with something that's imbuing it and allowing it to be, you know, much stronger, right? So again, it's really cool take that I see them trying to go for with Beowulf. And then, like I said, with the actual 3D rendering, I think they did a pretty good job with like honestly the portions, or the body portions is what I'm referring to, right? So I think sometimes like you want your models to feel different, right? Like, because I noticed that sometimes in some games what they'll do is they'll use like the same like male body model, but then just slap like a different skin on it. And I feel like so far we've seen a lot of different character models, varying from different muscle masses to different body structures and types. And I think that this is just really cool, just for the diversity of the characters all being different, right? Like, I think that, you know, outside of like, you know, the race and things of that nature, or even culture, our bodies are different, right? Like as human beings or just as individuals, our bodies are all different. And I feel like also too, with them starting to kind of tap into more of like those creatures and things of that nature, like, yeah, everything should seem, and I would say have their own unique feel. And I feel like we're kind of getting that here. So again, I feel like they're doing an extremely good job with just kind of fleshing out these characters. Obviously, we're probably going to see some more polishing as we get to, you know, closer to the official release. But I will say, for this to be like the initial concepts for these characters, these are pretty solid. And there's always more that they can add to them or take away, right? Like, I think that that's also a really cool thing. And I would advise you guys, like, if you guys have any ideas, make sure you guys join the official Discord to give them some of those ideas, because if in your head there's like an important key piece to this character that you feel like they could add, or any of the characters, they're willing to listen. And I think that that's one really cool thing too, is that with even some of these character designs, they're taking in player feedback, and they really want to know how you guys feel about these. I feel like for me personally, I really like this one. Again, like I said, there's a lot of things that for me makes it much more enjoyable, because I understand and like really like the lores of some of these different characters. But I think that, you know, that kind of is to each person. But again, I think that they did an extremely good job with the depiction of Beowulf. I'm hoping that, you know, we do kind of get some sort of like, I don't know, like something that kind of correlates to like this like death and rebirth, as far as a potential skill or passive, because I think that that would just be really cool, considering that now we're talking about he's kind of broken that barrier. Like, dude came back basically at this point, and now he's walking around with like basically, I guess, this trophy on the back of the olden dragon that he slayed. So again, really sick. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And once again, shout out to the Fateless team for allowing us the opportunity to be able to deep dive into some more Godforge characters. I'm always really excited to see what they're going to have for each week, and I'm very appreciative that they allow us this opportunity. So once again, guys, that's going to be that with this one. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.